Got everything started here? All right, thank you very much. Mr. Brown, would you please give us an invocation?
Lord, we come to you on this solemn day in which America was provoked into a war that many innocent people lost their lives here in the United States. And as we think about those things that happened over 20 years ago, maybe we also think about those that lost their lives as well as their families. Help us to always realize that you are the giver of all good things. Lord, this was something that was evil that came upon our shores. We're so grateful for the fact that we have you as an example. Give us the wisdom to do those things that are right in your sight. Help us to do the welfare of this county and the citizens that live herein. Give them the best representation that they can give. Lord, help us to put all things aside as far as a worldly manner and selfish ambition, so that we can concentrate wholly upon what is in the citizens' best interest. Be with us always. Be with us as we depart from this place. We ask in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Alrighty. Without objection, I would like to add 2 items to the agenda. Item 1 would be under new appropriations, letter I, new appropriations, so that's 6B5, and it would be private donations for Cottontown.
Is there an H already?
There is an H on the back, the Sheriff's Office additional funding.
What is that again?
It's Cottontown donation.
Is there an H?
There is.
What's H?
The H is the Sheriff's
On the
Office.
backside.
Backside. Yeah, there it is. The other one would be,
There's no H.
look at the backside.
Sheriff's Office additional.
Oh, H. Oh, I'm sorry. I
H.
thought we were under B. Oh, got it.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah, we're up here.
Oh, what's
There.
up there?
So,
Sorry
yeah,
for the
Yeah, I was
confusion.
No, it's
We were
okay.
at the wrong, we were under B
yeah.
instead of,
6B.
oh, there's 2
2H.
Bs. There's 2 Bs. That's the problem.
Oh, sorry, that was
Oh.
my bad.
Okay, first B, 2H. Wow.
Sorry.
Yep, good call. C, other items should be labeled C. And then I'd like to add one more item, and
Never
that
make
is
CD.
CD, yes, tax refund should be D. Good catch, that's why that was confusing. The other one is a transfer between, transfers, and that would be 3A, it would be a new B, and this is a request from the Highway Department for a shift in position. And Mr. Ellis is here to discuss that one.
That would be B.
That would be B. Transfers B.
Does he have anything to pass out?
Yeah, I don't know if it has anything to pass out. We may end up deferring it, but it's an individual left, and they're need to hire a spot. Do I have, with that, with those changes, do I have a motion to
So
approve?
moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, need to move on to the election of committee chairman.
We nominate Commissioner Choate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention. Schoaf abstains. Well, I will say one item. Thank you all, I think, for doing this to me again. So, no, I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and looking forward to working with you guys. And I also want to welcome 2 new members here, 2 new ladies. Welcome here, and looking forward to working with you all this year, keeping me in check. Alrighty, we now need to vice chair.
I nominate Commissioner Mansfield for vice chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Mansfield, any items?
Show up.
Okay,
Here's your list.
thank you. Recognition of the public. Ms. Charlena Allmiller.
Make sure they state their address, or is it
Hi,
on
I'm
there?
Dr. Charlene Arnold from 143 Middle Circle, I am originally from Missouri. I grew up in rural Missouri in a county that was the meth capital of the U.S. based on the drug use per capita. Luckily, I have an intolerance for too much caffeine, so while I was working as a CPA, I found out that my first boyfriend actually died of a heroin overdose. That's how many people didn't go out. I can promise you the drug dealers and addicts were not learning criminal behavior from the books in the libraries because they were not in the libraries. I moved away to go to college, and after graduation, I moved to St. Louis, the murder capital of the U.S., based on per capita deaths for people that live there. I've been very fortunate from some of the stupid choices that I've made, even as innocent as walking into my car in the middle of the night after a long day of working downtown St. Louis. And I just hope that my kids never make such poor choices. I moved to Nashville 11 years ago in Sumner County, 10 years ago next Monday. I know I live in a bubble, but I've had the opportunity to observe 2 days in Judge Blanton's court, General Sessions. About 15 minutes into my first day, I knew that God's work was being done there to help those who have lost their way and get back on track. About an hour in, I decided to bring my kids to General Sessions before they ever get their driver's license to DUI day. I know how fortunate I am to feel safe every single day. And I know that I have Sumner's law enforcement to thank for that. I respectfully request that you increase their pay so they may continue to keep our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Kevin Baker.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Kevin Baker, 42480 Wade Road. Where do I start? Boy, you've got your homework work set out for you tonight. But first of all, just want to stay on the record as I'm interested in seeing what we're going to do about the Val State funding of the $40,000. More I think about it, I don't think we should even ask the schools to fund that. That program should be dead on arrival. Funding illegal aliens, teaching them how to speak English and getting them jobs when we have Americans that don't have jobs and homeless people and homeless veterans, we need to focus on them first. I'm going to rattle a lot of people's cages tonight. I'd like to see it. I know we keep talking about the EMA Homeland Security grant for $121,000. I just hope that when we come to actually spend that money, it comes back before this committee, because it's kind of a catch-all phrase for training and for other supplies as covered by the grant. I mean, we should put some goalposts around it or fencing around that. Anyhow, the other thing that caught my attention is the health department. $1.7 million grant, and you look at that, 1.19 of it is salaries, and I know it's being funded by the state, but I'm concerned about, we set up these programs, and when all of a sudden that state and federal funding dries up, what do we do about it? But when you dial down, you see, I mean, why do we need interpreters to teach people how to get health care? To be a citizen in the United States, you're supposed to have rudimentary English skills. Why do we need to have, and are we providing interpreters for every ethnic group, language? I mean, I see 3 people there, but it's a concern of mine. And then finally on the water lines issue, that whole program, I don't know how you're going to get to the bottom of that whole thing. I started reading through it and my head started hurting. But I don't recall having seen a public meeting where we've done a beginning to end project review. I don't know how y'all could be expected to, from the bits and pieces you're being fed, understand what exactly is going on. And especially when we talk about that we're going to give millions of dollars to White House Public Utility District, which is basically a private company. We're gonna give them millions of dollars of money. They were the people that basically gave us it has to be a gravity drain from the new Liberty Creek School, right? Remember that one? They were the people pushing that whole issue. Oh, it has to be that, when in retrospect, a pressurized drain sewer would have been much, much better, wouldn't have infringed on people's personal property rights. But keep up the great work, folks. You got a lot of stuff in front of you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Terry Wright.
I'm asking y'all tonight to please consider the sheriff's office request. We have people who cannot afford to live in this county unless they work 2 other jobs working for the sheriff's office. It's ridiculous, people. I'm not asking for me. I've been called a dinosaur before, and that's fine.'t take that. I may be a little slower, but you call, I'm still on the way. And I think every one of them know that. Please consider it. There again, not for me, but for these people out here and for their family. They have families too. When y'all call, they don't ask if you're a Republican, a Democrat, what religion you are, what race you are. They're on the way. No matter if you approve this or not, just like with the Bearcat, whenever we went through that, we're still gonna be coming because that's our job. All we're asking is just pay us a little more so we're comparable to other counties so that we don't lose people to other counties. Our SRO program was recognized as the best in the nation, ladies and gentlemen. That's not the best in this state. That is the best in this nation. We need to remember, if we still want to keep and be the best, pay us a little more. That's all we're asking. We never expected to get rich in this business. We knew better. But we do expect to make a living. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Philip Kilman.
I don't know if any of you have read this or not. Danny Sullivan's a good friend of mine. He also sits on
Sir,
the county.
can you say your name and address, please, sir?
Philip Kilman, 117 West Fifth Street.
Thank you, sir.
Danny Sullivan's a good buddy of mine, and he's also my commissioner. So when my administrator put an email out, I felt compelled to call Danny and talk to him. So I'm going to read you the email that I sent to Danny. It says, "Good evening, Danny. I know we just spoke on the phone the other day. We spoke about the Robertson County significant pay increase. I am writing you this email not only for myself, but the staff I have the utmost pleasure that I get to serve with daily. I know early on in this process, this county commission seemed to be on board with the budget that the sheriff's office in St. Weatherford had proposed. Fast forward the year that this was to take place, and the rug was ripped out from underneath us in the 12th hour. Since that time, it has been a constant struggle to not only get new employees in the door, but it's now getting harder to retain. Our neighbors to the north got a 33% pay increase across the board, including the sheriff and the chief deputy. As I told you on that day, people would be leaving our office to join the office to the north. Since we have spoken, 4 of our officers on my shift alone now have interviews next week. Keep in mind that my shift alone, there are 3 other shifts in this building, and I'm positive they have a few as well. Please keep in mind the shifts require 28 officers per shift. My shift now has only 17 officers on it. Now subtract 4 from that, and that is what we're left with to staff the entire jail. Those numbers are forcing us to operate at a very dangerous level, so I do hope you pass this email along to your constituents. How can any of you live with yourself if one of our officers were to be killed in the line of duty, we're operating at such a dangerous level when all that we've taken is a pay raise that, number one, would have attracted more people to come to work with us, and number two, to also retain the officers that just keep showing up day after day, not knowing whether they're gonna make it home to their family that counts on them, and how they could potentially lose their life to running at such extremely low numbers across the board. I wonder if anyone has a contingency plan. If everyone were to leave because they can just drive up the road to a county that they don't even live in, or simply because they can no longer afford to live in the county that they so proudly represent. I want you to know I will not be the only one sending an email. These men and women are dedicated to this office and the community they serve day in and day out. Did you know that Robertson County currently only occupies, Robertson County is also a much poorer county than Sumner County. So how can a lesser county get such a pay raise when Sumner County cannot? I can answer that question for you. They have a county commission that actually backs the blue and stands behind them when our county commission sends us a thank you card on Officer Appreciation Day. It's just frustrating to know that 100% of that money is more than enough to take care of these provisions to the sheriff's office, as we give money back every year anyways. I pray this can get worked out in the very near future and our county commission can actually stand behind us and support us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sam Radke.
Hello, my name is Sam Radke. I live at 423 Corey Road in Gallatin. Well, I come to speak tonight as a citizen. I just want everybody to know that I'm also an employee at the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. As I was preparing what to say tonight, a friend and a mentor with whom I regularly discuss the state of law enforcement affairs sent me an article published by the Fraternal Order of Police. The title of the article is that 272 officers were shot in the line of duty in August across the nation. 272 officers in 1 month were shot in the line of duty. The article further goes on to say that the danger of law enforcement faces each day is growing due to an increase in targeted attacks, emboldened by media outlets villainizing the police and the failed policies of cynical politicians. Recently, I've been told that we can't mitigate the risk to zero, though, so those figures probably don't matter when we're talking about money, nor am I here to discuss the danger of law enforcement. I think everybody's aware of the danger of law enforcement and what we do as police officers and corrections officers. Nobody wants to be a police officer anymore. Nobody wants to get in corrections. Those that do are looking for the best agency. The mentality is this agency can offer me this and that, and this one can't. It's also the mentality of those who are currently in law enforcement. Like I said, there's a staffing crisis. Just about everywhere is hiring. The hot topic here recently in Sumner County for us has been that the Robertson County Sheriff's Office recently has increased their pay. They advertised $27 an hour for patrol and $25 an hour for their corrections officers. It's got me curious to look at Davidson County, a larger agency. I found a job posting for $30 an hour for part-time corrections. And then, of course, THP starts a non-certified, no experience police officer at $65,000 a year. We start out here at like 23 and some change as a certified police officer. Population in Robertson County is 75,400 and change. Sumner County is 203,800 and some change. Last week I had a conversation with the commissioner talking about wanting to constantly improve and always striving to be the best. And kudos to him. I think that we should always strive to be the best and constantly improve. I would ask this: what successful entity offers less pay but still gets the most qualified applicants and is still able to retain their top employees? How can we continually say that we're striving to be the best if we're not willing to offer the most? No one gets into law enforcement for money, like it was said earlier, but we have to have money to live. No one expects to get rich being a police officer, so why do we do it? Well, Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4 comes to mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. That is why I and many of my brothers and sisters get into law enforcement. We don't do this career for ourselves. We do it for our communities. We do it for Sumner County. We are clearly growing at an exponential rate in Sumner County. Personally, I think we do it a little backwards. We bring in all these people and then try to figure out the infrastructure, but I digress. That's not why I'm here. All we're asking is that you value us as the best law enforcement officers in the area, because I can tell you from firsthand experience that we are the best. I've worked at other agencies. I've worked with other agencies. My fear is that if you don't value us as the best, we're going to see an exodus to these other agencies whose governments do value them. We all have families to feed and bills to pay. Inflation is real. Many of those who I'm responsible for at work have to work 16-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week just to be able to afford a house in Sumner County and support their families. 12-hour shifts at the sheriff's office and they go straight into secondary jobs. I'm sure we can all imagine what this does to a person's family life. All I'm asking is that you value us and what we do for the community. I don't want to turn into a community that won't fund the police. Please fund the police, fund law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Eric Poland.
I really wanted to come here and speak with the words that were going to flow from my heart. But I'm a man of few words, and I used most of them this weekend trying to guess what my wife was thinking. So I wrote this down. Good evening, I'm Eric Poulin, and I'm grateful for the chance to stand before you today. I reside at 95 Busby Hollow Lane with my bride of 20 years and my 4 children. As a citizen of Sumner County, I come before you with deep respect for your dedication to public service. I kindly request that you consider the critical importance of ensuring Sumner County remains competitive in compensating our first responders and the men and women of the Sheriff's Office. I currently serve as a sergeant on patrol at the Sheriff's Office. But prior to this, I spent nearly 15 years in the business world, and I vividly recall the pressures associated with managing budgets and payrolls. During my career as a young businessman, I learned valuable lessons, some of which came from the challenges of meeting payroll each week for the dozens of employees. As many of you know, it can be a daunting task. Additionally, I had the privilege of serving on a leadership board at a medium-sized church in Hendersonville for 6 years. I understand the intricate considerations you all must weigh when approving budgets. It's not a task for the faint of heart, and I thank you for your commitment. Throughout my various leadership roles, I've come to recognize that budgets and pay are just components of the larger picture when running a healthy organization. Of course, other vital factors include strong leadership, fostering a sense of belonging, and garnering support for a shared vision. But this is precisely what I've experienced since joining the Sheriff's Office, and I attribute it to the positive culture fostered by many levels of servant leaders within our organization. Recently, however, some have found themselves making comparisons, as many do in their daily lives. And while comparison is sometimes necessary, we know it can be detrimental. Theodore Roosevelt once wisely stated, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And this holds true for numerous reasons. When we compare ourselves to others, feelings of inadequacy and dissatisfaction, they often arise. Nevertheless, some among us are indeed comparing Sumner County to neighboring areas, which is only natural. These are the men and women that are called upon during your darkest hours. I am, however, reminded that we're fortunate and we're not only loved and appreciated by our office's leadership, but also by the people of Sumner County who remind us on a regular basis. This continuous reminder helps us be mindful of the positive aspects of our situation. I share this message with my team members who patrol the county. They're the ones who respond to the burglaries, robberies, shootings, and suicides, and various other crises. They're the ones who are assisting in finding missing children, confused and wandering loved ones, assist those with critical mental health issues, and investigate crimes perpetrated on those who are victims of evildoers. However, despite our dedication to service, our deputies need support in the form of salaries that reflect the vital role they play in our county. None of us would have foreseen the substantial cost of living increase we've all experienced in recent years, yet here we are, facing a reality where many of our deputies struggle to make ends meet, and many deputies working additional jobs to provide for their families. Yeah, we willingly signed up, knowing we would make these sacrifices, missing the family moments, enduring long, sometimes lonely hours, but our calling to serve compels us. Given the recent increase in compensation observed in nearby agencies, retaining experienced deputies and recruiting new talent will become increasingly challenging. I fully acknowledge that pay is not the sole factor in retaining and attracting, but we must recognize its significance. Furthermore, I understand that budgetary constraints concern you, but I firmly believe that investing in the men and women of the Sheriff's Office is an investment in safety and well-being of our entire community. I urge you to explore all available options to allocate the necessary funds to make Sumner County competitive in the market. Our community safety and our dedicated first responders deserve nothing less. Thank you for your time, and most importantly, thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this critical matter that impacts the well-being of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Justin Hayes.
Justin Hayes, I'm at 1025 Robert Lee Drive here in Gallatin. First of all, thank you for what you do. Budget, I'm a banker. Budget is not always something that's easy to do. I do, however, think what the sheriff proposes is a pretty easy solution, or a pretty easy ask. So I come from 40 years of experience, or at least lifelong resident of Sumner County. I am a product of the Sumner County schools, but more importantly, I have 4 kids that will go to the schools, 2 of which are in it now, and my wife is a school teacher. So safety, to me, is probably one of the most important things. Education is obviously important, socialization and learning. But when I went to school, I didn't go and have to think, is something going to happen? You might get in a little fight in the playground or something like that, but you didn't worry about something happening. Well, now we have an opportunity to make sure that our schools are protected and maybe even a little more than protected. They can be an influence for these children. We also have an opportunity to keep our pay for our officers competitive to our surrounding counties. As someone who's been here for 40 years, I don't want to look at the counties around us and see their officers getting the talent and getting the resources that they need to be safe while we watch ours diminish. And last, I know that this hasn't been discussed yet, but I know it's on the budget to actually have a little bit of money for overtime. I know a lot of my best friends are in this room right now. A lot of them are not being paid to be here right now. And when they do work over their normal times, they're not giving overtime or that, it's comp time or whatever. But they're here tonight because it matters to them. It matters to me, I'm here. I was at the golf course today, I'm sorry. I normally would dress up, not wear a hat, but it meant more to me than going home to my family to stop by tonight, just to urge you to listen to the sheriff, to listen to the sheriff's office, and really consider what you're approving, and think about the children, think about the officers that are protecting you and our children and our county. Thank you for what you do, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Michael Bergren.
Yes, sir. My name is Michael Bergren at 117 West Smith Street. I'd like to share 2 things, please. One of the things I'd like to share is that I was in business for 30 years and then decided to get into the sheriff's office. One of the reasons I decided to get in the sheriff's office is because 30 years ago, I was homeless, on drugs, and in jail. It was a corrections officer by the name of Sergeant Boyd Scott from 33rd Street Jail that helped straighten my life. These men and women put their lives every day, their mental health on the line, time with their families and everything. They can make a difference. I'm literal proof they can make a difference. That's just what I want to share about me. I'd like to share something about another officer. He asked me if I could read his email. Unfortunately, he's at his 2nd job right now, so he couldn't come in. It says, "Good morning, sir. My name is Bailey Garrison. I've been living in Sumner County for just over 2 years now, and I've been employed at the Sumner County Sheriff's Office in the Jail Division for a year. Prior to this department, I worked in NDOC, Nevada Department of Corrections, in Nevada State Prisons for a couple years. I worked at a security threat group yard, gang yard, and did my time at max security institutions in northern Nevada. My family and I, consisting of me, my wife, and our 2 children, with one on the way, came to Tennessee from Nevada in search of affordable living, good fishing, fair wages, and good churches in the Bible Belt. Fortunately, I can say that I found an amazing church and I found good fishing, but I have not found affordable living or what I believe to be fair wages. My coworkers and I agree we do not get paid enough for this job. I've seen morale and professionalism dramatically increase due to raises at my other department. I have seen people who apply to corrections just for the pay and they end up with lifelong bonds with their coworkers. We are short-staffed here at SCJ. Today, it's me and one other officer that are responsible for looking over 225 pre-trial and convicted felons who are here for violent crimes. We are subjecting on ourselves to an evil that only we know, an evil that we don't bring home to tell our families about, an evil that we sacrifice our bodies and minds to so it doesn't come to your front door. We are tired, hurt, overworked, stressed out, underpaid, and damaged. We cut men and women down from their steel bunks in their concrete cells after they made the conscious decision to end their life because they don't understand what they did and they don't think about their children or wives. Law enforcement have to make the calls to notify their families that daddy will not be coming home from jail or will not be calling from jail anymore because he ended it all. But we still show up every day because no one else will do our job. We get spit on, urine thrown on us. We have to fight fully grown men covered in their own fecal matter. The women here are exposed to sexual harassment and men who are just trying to get one thing. They show up every day because no one else will do their job. If I was at my house and someone offered me $20 to go fight someone in my yard who was covered in fecal matter, who would I call? That's right, the underpaid law enforcement who will deal with it for $20. I go home every night and need 30 minutes of decompression or else I will bring work home with me. I would love to have a job where I can get home and hug my wife and kids immediately. But I can't because my mind has to adjust to normal life again. At NDOC, I made over $100,000 with overtime in a year every year. My brother who works at Ada County Jail makes over $30 an hour after being there for 1.5 years. California Department of Corrections, I understand this. That starts at $60,000 a year. Robertson County is now offering to start at $25 an hour. Davidson County starts at $28 an hour. Wilson County has said that some Wilson County officers have said that their raise got approved to where they're going to start making $25 an hour. Sumner County is the biggest jail in the area, including surrounding counties with the exclusion of Davidson, is only making $20.16 an hour. Before our incredible gracious 1% raise, we were making $19.50. Every 2 weeks after mandatory insurance payments and taxes, I make $1,200 biweekly, leaving me with $2,400 every month. After $1,400 rent, $350 truck payment, my only vehicle, $700 in water, electric, gas, and sewage, I am left with negative $50. Where do I get my groceries and fuel? I don't pay some bills some months. Rent prices are higher here in Sumner County than when I was in Nevada. After a quick search in family-friendly neighborhoods, the average rent prices are $2,000. This is including Hendersonville, White House, Gallatin, etc. As far as fuel prices are concerned, we are looking at close to record high. Only a few cents off in Tennessee compared to Nevada. Groceries have reached an all-time national increase in prices. Our insurance costs increase when we got our 1% raise, so we don't make extra on our checks. I know that there are allocated funds in Sumner County. I've seen the general funds, the historic funds, I've seen them all. There's plenty of money to give corrections a $9,000 a year raise. Fiscally, Sumner County can afford giving corrections officer a raise by $33,000 a year. But sir, that is not my request and it's not my job description for allocation of funds. If a correction officer with no fiscal accounting experience can figure it out, I have faith that my public officials can find at least $9,000 per corrections officer in unallocated funds for a raise for every correction officer. Did you know that 31% of corrections officers suffer from clinical depression? 34.1% of corrections officers suffer from PTSD? These are just a few problems, not including addiction, guilt, paranoia, anxiety, lack of concentration in our homes, flashbacks, which is very common with myself, social withdrawal, etc. Physical effects, chest pains, dizziness, heart disease, insomnia, self-harm, ulcers, obesity. There is 156 correction officer suicides a year. That's 3 per week. Our average lifespan is 60, where yours is 75 and your wife's is 80. We don't know why we do it. But everyone who walks the streets tonight should be happy that we subject ourselves to this job in exchange for all of our family's peace and safety. Unfortunately, this job requires us to be warriors when the darkest hours came. I have inflicted damage and pain to humans just to make sure that I hold my promise to my wife and I come home at night. I hate that part of this job, especially for $20. I end this email. I would like to extend an invitation to you and your colleagues to come visit Sumner County Jail and spend a shift or two with us to see what we do every day and see what our schedule looks like.
Thank you, sir. That ends citizen comments. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. I have no report. Mr. Mayor.
I had Mr. Goodroof on my report, but since you added to the agenda, I'll wait till then, if that's okay.
All righty. Mr. Loring,
Item A is the sheriff's department transfer $7,000 for canine care. It's part of the lake money that we receive, and actually the chief deputy's here to talk about it. If we need somebody to talk about it any further, but.
I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item B was an added item from the highway department, I believe. Toby Ellison here to talk about it.
I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules to let Mr. Ellis speak here.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis.
Hello, everybody. What
Yeah.
we're trying to do, it was something that, a couple weeks ago, the guy that was our field truck driver come in and turn in his 2 weeks notice. We started looking at the description of the jobs and things where he was located at on, as far as in the budget. He was listed under a truck driver. And that's something that he should be allocated and transferred over to the shop, because he is a mechanic, basically. Yes, he's got his hazmat certification, he's got a CDL license, but he does services to the equipment out in the field and on a regular basis, not, and as well as fueling the equipment. And so this is something that I feel like should just be moved over. It's not a money thing. It's just getting the position under the right category, which is the mechanics in our shop.
Yeah, I put it in the wrong spot. I put that in the wrong spot, so. This is the one that, thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and move us back into normal rules here, so. This was the item that I had put into transfer. It shouldn't be transferred between major categories. It should be, you're right, Mr. Long, it should be, under interbudgetary 2A.
It may be, I don't know exactly where Mr. Ellis has got that, but it's something we can send next month, we can handle it to them.
Is that all right?
Yeah, we just send it
Okay,
next month. And we'll just handle
then
it.
that's fine, but this won't mess him up in order to
Not if
start
he's
that
got-
higher?
Not if he's got money in the line items and you guys are willing to transfer.
Okay.
He can do it until he runs out of money, but then he would take a transfer.
The guy that's gonna be taking place is making less. And so it's not a money thing. We're not asking for more.
Yeah, all right, got it.
Those who are willing to do the
Yeah.
transfers will become categories for commission.
I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. We'll send it back next month.
Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty,
We'll bring the official one back next month.
all right.
Thank
Number
Thank you,
two
Mr.
is the, item two is the interbudgetary. Nothing unusual in that group unless somebody's got a particular question.
I'd entertain a motion here. Page 6, 7, these are your typical interbudgetary transfers.
Items to do with the new courthouse
Yep.
construction, disaster recovery for IT. That's where I turned down the brother.
I have a question.
Nothing on the
We need a
list.
motion. Okay.
Even for discussion.
Make a motion for discussion.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty, go ahead, Mr. Klein.
I'm looking at item one, oh, I guess they're all 101. At the bottom of page 6, there's a tire balancer and changer. Original budget line 51,000.
He just classified that when he made his request and on his own line item.
Okay.
So the most appropriate line item would just be other equipment. He had it under, I believe, some other kind of equipment line item.
Okay. 51,000 is
The cost of it, yeah, it was bid. And the actual balancer was discussed during budget and approved.
okay.
He just had it wrong.
Yeah, I remember something about it. I just don't remember that it was that much money.
Any other questions on that, Mr. Klein? I have one question.
I don't.
And it's the 25,000 for app creation for the circuit
that's-
court.
That was the circuit court clerk. She sent it down to do an app. My understanding is to do stuff at the court. She's actually paying it out of her data processing fees that can only be used for automation of the office, and she has quite a bit of reserves there anyway. So no, the money couldn't be used for anything other than automation of the office in some form or fashion.
We don't have any details? Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
We've got the contract in my office, but usually nobody asks for those details of budgets. You want us to email it to you, what the app is?
Yeah, I would like that.
I would like to.
I would like that. Because it's this nice round
Other-
number. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. It's
Well,
just
other-
nice
other-
round number here.
The same app's being used, my understanding, in Davidson County.
Okay, so it's not like we're paying some fly-by-night.
No, we're paying a group that's done it.
So it's no.
We're using the same contract, I believe it was Knox County or Davidson County to do the.
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
The other thing that I've got is under Register of Deeds, it's $18,000 for the OCR software right there. The same deal, that's for their software upstairs when they scan in your deeds and stuff for electronically, and she pays that out of her data processing fees. The circuit court clerk, clerk and master, the Register of Deeds, and the county clerk actually has data fees to pay for those costs that they collect.
Good, Mr. Brown? Ms. Boyd?
So I wanted to address the round numbers. The finance office actually explained that to me today. They round everything up to make it nice and
Okay.
even.
On the pennies, are you asking about the pennies and not the dollars?
It's not like their app costs exactly
Yeah.
25,000.
We
They
do
just
all
round it
budgets.
to make it.
When at all possible, we do all budgets to the nearest dollar to make it work better.
Okay. I'll just make a comment, if you look at courthouse and jail maintenance, saying crime doesn't pay is a truism for the taxpayer. We look at all the repairs of criminals, as we grow, crime grows and maintenance grows. So it's, look at this cost.
A lot of these are transfers to do with, we put most of the stuff in just a few line items because we're trying to break courthouse and jail maintenance to what's only about the courthouse and jail and there and all the other buildings around the jail.
Okay.
That's why there's so many transfers.
I'm seeing on page 7, 15,899.76 for jail and juvenile court disposal fees.
That's what we're saying, we put most of the stuff under one line and started breaking the disposal fees back out. So we stuck about everything back at the budget time under a few line items. That way we could figure out what went to each courthouse and jail.
Okay, well, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah.
We spend $100,000 a year and get nothing for it.
Yeah. You are correct.
See, that's what, is this private?
Yes.
It's
We
private.
pay the haulers to come and pick up the trash in the dumpsters. They draw it across the tipping fee and then we do get charged, they get charged with the resources.
And I know where this is going, but like, I'm just trying to keep us on
I
track.
know.
We got a big,
But like I say, that's a good idea.
I get it.
for a
I get it.
committee
I
For
get it.
financial management, at the last of the month, we are gonna give a report of the total we pay a year for garbage disposal, and it's less than.
so any other notes here, or do we have a motion to approve, or?
A motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Ms. Boyd,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
One additional item that I laid out for my report on your table, and it's actually the budget approval from the state. The only thing the state did note is that we had budget American Rescue Plan funds, and they wanted to make two things apparent that we already knew anyway. These funds are going away. There is a timeline on them, and that was the main, and they're also not approving the ARA funds in any way. They're only approving their budget. But they understand that we, with the consultation of our attorney, should make sure what we're doing is legal. And we have got consultants to make sure what we are doing is legal.
Thank you, sir. Anything further?
No, that's the end of my report.
All right.
I just wanted to point it out, they also say these funds are non-recurring and should only be used for one-time expenses, which is what we've had some problems now because of that, so. I just, comptroller said that multiple times, so.
Said at the very beginning.
Yeah, we did it anyway.
Yeah, we should watch that.
Okay, so let's move on here. Election Commission, the computer grant. So this has been deferred, or it's been on here a couple
May I
times.
make a request that
Yep.
we have my office to send an email back to them that this would
Yes,
to be removed from the agenda, they just make a new request.
yes.
Because they made this back before the end of the last.
I think I can
fiscal
just
year.
strike this from the
Yes.
agenda. So let's just do that. And they can resubmit. I believe item B, highway radio maintenance payment, I believe Mr. Ellis paid this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
We can strike
Okay,
that.
we can strike this. Moving on along here.
C, they withdrew their request.
Okay, so we can strike that. All right, so now we're up to the big item for today. So no, not yet. Carryovers. Sheriff's Office, $560.
Hold on, you skipped C.
No, the nonprofit. Oh, no, sorry, I did skip. Yes, let's go ahead and do this. So go ahead, I'm gonna entertain a motion for discussion, because I have some notes here.
On volunteer state?
Yeah.
They withdrew.
They would, yeah, I thought they were going to, because I spoke with them.
They withdrew, if that's what they.
Yeah, I thought they were going to withdraw. I
Okay,
spoke
well,
with
nobody
them.
said that, so it's on the.
Yeah,
table.
that's what he was saying. He was saying.
We received the email after the agenda.
Yeah, I went and spoke to them. So
So clarify what they withdrew it
they're not going to request it
from us.
from us.
They're requesting it from somebody else?
I don't know. Okay, carryovers. Item D1, Sheriff's Office, $563,000 for vehicles due to invalid bids. Mr. Long, any details here?
That is where we bid the sheriff's department vehicles. The vendor couldn't deliver timely, but also when we started digging into it deeper, we determined that the bid was never valid to start with because the sheriff's specific bid said no hybrids. And the particular individual wanted to deliver us hybrids, and the sheriff's department said they prefer not to have the hybrids, is my understanding.
All right.
So we're asking to carry it over to.
I'll entertain any motion.
So move.
All right, we have one motion and a second. Any discussion on this? It's carryover. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 8,500, item B2, this is for the Liberty Creek Park project. I'd entertain a motion here, even for discussion.
Motion to discuss?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Should we get the details?
Yes, or the county mayor can.
This, let me give, this one has several parts. There's $100,000 that was originally given for design and for any other things necessary for the grants. This is the point left, the amount left for this. This is the park up by the new Liberty Creek School. There is $125,000 local match, a $500,000 donation from the Brown Trust, and a $125,000 grant and a $500,000 grant, and this remaining $8,000 here from the original 100. So it's part of a larger project. It's been going on, actually in your agenda is the original.
And I think this has some consistent yes and no votes across it, so any discussion on this one?
I have a couple questions. So
Go
this
ahead.
is the Brown Park at Liberty Creek?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this,
The middle school.
because we've had so much back and forth, is this county property or is this county property we're gonna donate to the school later? Is there a plan on this park that's out there in the school complex? I just don't know the history.
Yeah, there is a plan for the park, and I'll be happy to get you that plan.
I was just,
So, but yeah, it's part of that school complex.
yeah.
It's kind of in between the schools, so it's part of the school property.
This is part of the science.
Mr. Mayor, I think the question is it county property or is it school property?
Schools.
It's school
It's
property.
It's property.
It's a contained park. It doesn't go outside the schools.
So it's school property.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay. It makes no difference in how I look at it. I was just wondering because we've had so
Makes a
many
difference how-
conversations.
I'll be happy to.
It's
get
not
you
gonna have the
plan.
external,
And I'll verify.
Mr. Klein?
Is this the old house, the historical, the state house?
The part of this is the house, yes. The house is located on that property, which they plan on restoring and using for educational purposes.
So the money has not been allotted or chosen, we have not built it into the budget to redo the house yet? Or is that a school project?
No, that'd be part of all of this park, this park.
This $100,000? Okay.
this was from 2020. It's been going on since 2020.
Any other questions here?
Early
Any
2000.
other discussion? I'll entertain a motion, up or down. Okay. No motion. Okay. Yep, we'll drop this. Okay, the next one, I feel like we voted on this.
One thing to say, the other
voted on last
portion,
month.
the other, this is,
everybody.
yeah, this is the second reading for this one. I was gone
Okay.
last month. One thing to note is the other parts are still out there, which are the $500,000 matching, the 125, I'm sorry, the 125 matching, the $500,000 donation, and $625,000 worth of grants. I'm not sure how this is gonna affect, not carrying over the small amount, I don't know.
I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second it, but I don't know how to vote for it. I'm gonna get a cue here. So this is, I just wanna be super clear, this is school property that we're building a park, county funds, school property, schools have $100 and something million in reserves, and we're putting $8,000 toward this.
Well, I think this is all part of that grant project.
Okay.
So, and I would, And I'll be real honest with you, this was prior to me, so I probably need to be versed a little more on it.
It started, this particular project started 24th of February 2020, and this is what's going on.
Mr. Mansfield?
So, yeah, this is, I'm voting on this because I voted no for 3 years on this, because it's a part of the Master Parks and Greenway Plan, which is a part of condemning private property on Plantation Creek Road for greenways in people's backyards to lead to this, and then they just abuse it in the domain. And so that's why I've been against this. So just consistency's sake, I mean, I am not opposed to it being used to, renovate an old historic structure, but I'm just gonna be consistent here with my original position of what this was used for, and the original impetus was what this was used for was to basically steal private property from citizens. So we kind of put some roadblocks there, but we got to get started. But that's just kind of the background. But it was a $500,000 matching grant from the state. The county commission applied in order to do this, and they had to create this master parks plan, part of that for that grant from this thing.
And then it got increased by another 125, but we matched it locally for 125. But maybe a thought, since the mayor doesn't have all the information.
I was gonna say, I'd maybe move.
Could you guys
I'd like to
defer
move
it?
I would like to,
Invite Mr.
I'd entertain a motion to.
I'll make a motion to defer.
All right.
Northleaf to tell us where we're at on the
All
project.
right, so all in favor to defer?
I'll withdraw my
Okay.
motion.
Then, well, because that was an
I'll
amendment, so
second.
you're withdrawing.
Okay.
You've got, the motion on the floor is to defer. We have a second from Ms. Boyd. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Or no?
Do you want us to request our count next month? and
Yes.
present where we're at
Yes,
on
please.
how it's gonna be?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could we get any documentation the mayor has?
That's what he's asking for.
The plans and stuff, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to see the
We'll
budget.
get,
too.
we'll get her that email and then pull the other.
So,
portions.
so item D3 here, is this, I think this is the second reading for $323,000 for highway equipment.
Do you need details on it?
I don't think we do. Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve. This is the second reading, we've approved it once before.
Motion to approve. So
We have a motion and a second. All right, any
Question?
questions? We have,
I'll just, since this is my first
Okay.
time here, I would like to just catch me up.
okay,
Did you mix
yeah, if you would.
Back at the last tax rate, the highway department was given 1 penny for equipment, and it was placed in the capital projects fund. Each year it's budgeted, what 1 penny is, less trustees commission we have to pay, and this is the portion left over last year because Mr. Ellis was new and he was still determining what equipment he needed, so he's wanting to roll it over to this year, combine it with the money he gets this year to buy the equipment he needs. So that's his leftover amount from last year, he was wanting to use it this year, rather than buy last year. He was new.
Ms. Glenn?
But this is about the same amount of money we gave him for the new tractors.
It's very close.
So,
Oh, Ms. Boyd, then go ahead.
I just, that was clarification.
Ms. Boyd?
And to speak on yours, I think it is the tractors. If we could ask Mr. Ellis if it's the tractors and when they're coming.
It's,
No,
Oh,
no,
Miss-
ma'am, it's not.
It's
It's
not.
not.
No, this is the little, when they raised taxes last time, there was 1 penny that they raised taxes for the highway department. The county commission at the time decided to place it in the highway department to guarantee that it was only used for equipment or capital items. This is the amount since Toby got in late last year, and you can talk, you might want to recognize him to talk
Well,
about his,
we may
but my
have-
understanding from Toby, the reason he didn't spend it last year is he was still determining all of his needs, and this is the amount he wanted to carry over to have what he has this year.
Ms. Mansfield?
So maybe I was a little confused last month when we voted
Yes.
this, because I thought this was part of the ARPA for that funding for buying tractors. So this is not a part of the
No.
ARPA funding, this is totally separate. This is
Separate.
simply just a carryover
Yes.
for this equipment, part of the original budget.
Correct.
And it was a promise for a penny for the highway.
And this is a
Right,
half
it's
a
different
pickup.
than me, so what I thought it was last month.
That's carryover.
Right, just like if they would have put the penny in the highway fund, it would have automatically carried over for Mr. Ellis. But they put it here because they wanted to guarantee that it wasn't used for salaries or anything other than equipment. So he wanted to leave it here and let it roll over.
The money's there, it's just.
He just wants to roll it over because he didn't 100% have all his equipment he's ready.
Any other, Mr. Klein?
but we pulled money out of the budget to pay for those tractors.
But this is a totally separate thing.
I know, but this is for equipment, and he had it.
Well, I mean, it's separate equipment, I mean.
Yeah, no, I understand, I'm trying to make the point that he had the money for the tractors, but we allotted another $300,000 for the tractors, but he had the 320 for here. Am I
Yes,
understanding that
yeah,
right?
but I'll address this question. I think these are two totally separate things. Mr. Long.
When you were still doing the tractors, Mr. Ellis was still trying to determine what to do with these as far as dump trucks and other items.
Yeah.
So his plans were to use them last year, but it didn't happen because he was still working through what they needed. So, and he may be able to answer more about it if you want.
I mean, we can suspend the rules here, if you'd like to ask Mr. Ellis specifically.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
to suspend.
We got a second to suspend the rules? Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Ellis, can you give us the difference between the 300, well, go ahead, you asked the question, Mr. Long.
Toby, the money for the tractors was about 300,000.
365. It was a little over, close to 370.
370, okay. So, and you had this money.
Well, the money that we're talking about now, I'm trying to get a passenger truck with. And I've always had that in my mind, but we had to go through the process of going with it. And I had, I had to get to know my people, get to know my equipment. We do have equipment that probably goes back to the Reagan administration, I'll say that. And we've got a lot of equipment. So when the ARPA money was there and we had the opportunity to get 3 tractors, the ARPA money, it was a good thing for the department because it helped me keep this money allotted for a patch truck that not only will be more efficient to where we can operate with 1 person versus 5 and use chip and liquid AC to go out and patch a hoe instead of going to Rogers Group and buying a mix.
Yeah.
So it's a cost savings, it's efficient. So we've got it figured that it will save the county enough money to pay for the truck in the first year and a half.
Yeah, and I forgot that the other money was ARPA money, which does make a
Yeah,
difference.
it was ARPA money that we did not, it was goodness for the county for sure.
Okay, I'm
Any other
sorry.
questions for Mr. Ellis? All right, we're gonna go back, under our typical
Thanks,
rule
Toby.
set. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to approve this? No.
Yes.
We do, okay. Any other discussion here? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. This was second reading, so I think we're good on this one, Mr. Warren. Okay, so, new business, Education Committee budget amendments, 47 through 119. I'll entertain a motion here. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Brown, any details?
No,
Anything to call
got
out?
all those this afternoon.
Okay. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. I know there's a lot here.
There's a lot.
Gotta do your homework. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Carryovers. Item number 1B1A Courthouse, parking garage, page 120. Mr. Long, details on this one, please, sir.
This is the carryover for the construction of the courthouse and the garage. There was an earlier carryover in July. This is actually a decrease for the carryover.
Yep.
We went ahead and just carried it over with unclosed books because we needed to keep the project going. So this is to adjust it to actual.
All righty. Any discussion, or I'd entertain a motion?
We'll skip the second reading on this one. We can get the actual now. Move
We need a motion of any kind right now.
Motion.
We have a motion. In that motion, would you skip the second reading if unanimous?
fast. If unanimous.
Okay.
This is the
Second.
We have a second on that. All right, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, motion carries unanimously, waive second reading. Okay, Homeland Security Grant, 121, 127. So, we had some discussion on, or we had a commentary earlier on this. I think this is all pass-through grant funding, correct?
Oh, yes, sir.
And it is somewhat open-ended, but I'd entertain a motion. All right, we have a motion for discussion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, who wants to get in queue?
I'll get in queue.
All right, Mr. Klein?
So is this one grant, or is this multiple grants?
This is one
It's
grant.
one grant for all sorts of different equipment.
And was there any contribution by the county at all?
No, it's all passed through.
Straight,
All passed through.
Okay.
back in 2000, it was back from April 2022.
Okay.
Is this a federal grant through the state?
Yes, sir. It's a federal grant. It's through the state, I think. Homeland Security grant. It's all federal funding, but I don't think it flows through the state or direct.
Could have been both. Could have been
Does it
both.
say?
No, it doesn't.
But does say the federal and has the catalog of information on it. Tracking agency, and it does have an agency. So it's federal money flowing through the state, and it's an agency.
Oh, yeah.
Rock
Any other, oh, Ms. Boyd.
So have we seen this grant?
Federal. It's a federal through state. It was approved back in April of 2022.
At that point, did they see the grant?
Yes. It was attached to that resolution
Back then?
it was approved in April.
Thank you.
Can we get a copy of that?
The entire grant.
Yeah. I would just, for the record, I'd like this, the commission to get a copy of that so that when it goes on the floor, assuming it does. So we have the whole thing for reference.
We'll supply it for legal
Yeah,
resolution.
thank you. Any other, oh, go ahead, Ms. Boyd.
Can we see the grant before full commission?
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
get somebody to email it out too. And I don't know, Mr. Widener may be here. There's usually a request for
Mr.
people.
Widener, he's not here. I think, and I understand why, I mean, this is not new, so. But yeah, you're gonna get that, or the legal will get the grant out to us before the full commission. That was my request.
So move.
All right, so move to approve?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Are you gonna consider it pass through so it don't be a second reading?
Yes, as long as we have that for the full commission. All right, motion carries unanimously. Okay, drug court. This is a grant reduction from the original budget. 2020. This is page 128. Mr. Long, you may have details on this one.
More of it got spent than anticipated. While we were still doing the budget gets approved in June, going to late May, so there was more spent late May and late June than anticipated. So they carry it.
But this is net. Like it's not, it's net. Okay. Any motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, it's yours that Mr. Klein had the motion. You have the second, all right. Any discussion here? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. This, next one is Health Department grant, entertain a motion, page 129, 151.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question.
Ms.
I
Boyd?
actually have a comment. Most of you know my son went to college this year. It's a big day. He needed a TB test. So I called, my physician doesn't do TB testing. She told me to call the health department. Called the health department, and they told me they don't give citizens TB testing. They give high-risk people. And they couldn't explain that to me, but I was not allowed to have a TB test. So I asked for their procedures, and I can't recall if we follow the WHO recommendation or the CDC, but both say that only high-risk populations, of which my child was not. So I had to seek it out at a walk-in clinic. I wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Any other commentary? This is a pure pass-through as well, right?
It's the flow-through direct grant access every year, and we go budget it during the budget time, and it's adjusted to what the state actually approves of it.
Okay. Ms. Boyd, do you have an amendment or any just commentary, or you have a motion?
I think that in the future we should understand what services our health department is providing to our citizens.
Do we have any, and I guess I have a question here, do we have any control over that whatsoever? I mean, other than up or down in this?
I don't see anything
Yeah.
other than up and down, but I'll be more glad to see what they can provide me as far as the supplemental information.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have initiated exactly what Commissioner Boyd is asking for with the Director of the Health Department and general operations with will be pursuing every function that they, I don't know if we'll get into the weeds that much about, you know, those kinds of testings, but we may.
It was a surprise.
Yeah, it is a
I mean, it's-
surprise. Yeah, who knew?
Paying for it, like,
So we will be pursuing that at the general operations level.
any other discussion here? We're only in a
I'll make a
motion to
motion to
discuss.
approve.
We have one motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second from Mr. Brown. We're gonna get in queue.
I was just going to ask, we need to make a motion to amend this to officially, as far as asking, requesting for investigating why that taxpayer services, you're not getting the services you're paying for the
I
taxpayer.
mean, is that your amendment?
I would like to explore that as far as sending the general ops officially to get what is the order of services that are part of, as they're investigating that as a county building and building out space for them or improving the space. And I know that like 20% of the residents in Davidson County.
Yes,
40%.
at least at the Henderson.
Henderson, like,
It was like
40% of the residents, people who come to that facility.
Okay, so I've got advice here from legal to treat that as a separate thing, which,
That's fine.
as opposed to amending this.
I have a.
All right, go ahead.
And who's high risk? Like, how do they determine?
We don't know. Yeah, I think that's what we're all trying
That's
to
what we're asking
wrap in
for.
our head. I mean, that and probably other questions.
Immigrants, they
That'd
mentioned.
be good to discuss with health and emergency
Yeah.
services.
We've got two more items.
So, that's okay. We've got a big agenda. We've got a big agenda. So, and I think we're passing this to the right committees to fix. Well, we've got a big agenda.
Okay.
Let's pass that, this is about budget. Let's pass that on to you all who are health and emergency services. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. Okay, so this is to remove the jury trial allocation of funds, so this.
Second, y'all.
Second. All right. I think, does this need any further discussion? Everybody know what this is?
Coming back to us.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, water lines, item D, ARPA water lines. So this is reducing the budget to agree with the available funds.
There's some
Go
money
ahead.
spent at the very last of the year, so it needs to be reduced to agree with what's left. It's like
So
$200 and some dollars.
we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion and second, and again, this is reducing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. HR department, so this is payout for former HR director's accumulated vacation time.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait second reading.
Uh,
I will amend my motion to raise second.
All right.
I'll agree to it.
Second.
all right, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously and waived. So, Mr. Mayor, this next one is $40,000 donation to the local system travel consistency this is at Mont Haven. I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you.
Motion discussed.
Motion discuss.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, who wants to get in queue?
So this is part of those funds. We use a portion of those funds to work on the Veterans Park up here. And then we have some remaining funds. And this is a program that I've been exposed to and saw the good works, I think. Chairman Mansfield was at that same meeting along with he is the chairman of another committee, Teachner. And we got a narrative provided by Mont Haven. It's just, it's an excellent program that I would like to see expanded. And I thought these funds would be a good use to help expand those funds. And so it's what's left over from that grant, the Travel Consistency Fund that we have.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion here or question? Ms. Mansfield?
I don't know if legal looked at, was this a grant? It isn't a grant, right, for that?
It's the ARPA tribal fund. There's $100,000 of it. It could be used for virtually any government project, but it has to follow local. So just like the state was saying that we need to look here, most of our ARPA funds go through the consultant. This particular group is not. So we probably need legal and everybody to look at it, because my question is, this is a nonprofit donation with federal money is what it looks like. So there's going to be sub-recipient. The question is, I believe probably the nonprofit statutes would apply. The local statutes usually apply for federal, so I'm not sure what's been looked at this year.
Pardon the interruption, but this isn't part of the ARPA.
The tribal money's ARPA funds. It's the tribal ARPA. The tribal money comes through ARPA. It's a different group, but it's still ARPA funds.
Okay. Well, we checked on all the criteria, it did qualify.
Does it
prior
have to be advertised is my question.
Yes,
that's the question.
I would think it does.
We
I think
gotta
it has to
find
follow
out.
local ordinance.
Okay, so,
Can we move to defer this to next month? So we can find out.
is it gonna, well, go ahead, we have a motion to defer?
Second.
And a motion and a second, I'm gonna get in queue on this one. Is this gonna kill anything, Mr. Mayor, if we defer it or not? Okay,
We just need to find out if you need to
All right.
advertise and follow the other nonprofits.
got it. All in favor of deferring? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion is deferred to next month. $104,000 for rural fire departments.
So move.
Got a second?
Second.
Second. We have a second from Ms. Boyd.
Can I make one comment?
Go ahead.
We have a listing here from the volunteer fire departments, and I was talking to Mr. Shedler today too. Before it can go on to county commission, it'll have to be advertised. Any charitable nonprofit donation, any nonprofit donation that's not charitable has to be advertised before the county commission can contemplate it. So this will need to go to the county commission actually in October. But the other thing is kind of the discussion emergency services had. The more you tie yourself in with the fire departments, the more you can potentially have liabilities. So instead of appropriating for this equipment, you may just want to consider appropriating that amount to each fire department, let them decide to buy the equipment.
So
Kind of keeps you out of the management function and the description
We
function.
should, I'll make a motion to do the requested amount per department to be advertised, just without any
Without any
description.
strings.
No.
Just a donation.
Second.
to
We have
Okay,
no
we have a
authority.
motion and a second, so it's just a flat,
It needs to
okay.
stay.
Yep, that makes sense.
Keeps you out
Okay,
of liability.
any further discussion on this? I actually may have a, I may have an amendment on this. I'm gonna hold that till we get to the next budget cycle, we start to redo this again, as opposed to tackling it. Let's just go with what we got.
Mr. Chairman,
I was about to put a string on
where
there.
did you,
Yeah, let's keep it.
where does this money come from?
This was,
Property taxes.
yeah, general fund.
General fund.
General fund.
Property tax rate divisions.
Yep.
And can we put this back on after we advertise and send it forward from
Sure.
the
Well,
commission?
it's your motion.
Next
Well, I
month.
mean, I'll be,
Because it can't go to commission October.
yeah, my motion is to approve with re-agending it, I guess, in October, because it has to go through the advertising process.
Yep. You good with that?
Yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving quickly now. We may move a little less quickly on this next one. Okay, Sheriff's Office additional funding. I'm gonna go ahead and explain this one a little bit. So, we obviously have some folks coming to speak about this. I spoke with Sheriff Weatherford and Chief Deputy Craddock on this on a few occasions. So you'll see on page 167, kind of a single request, and I've broken that into three because if you look at the request, there are really three different pieces to it, and I want to consider each of these in kind. So, in general, for item H, the request is to apply, if Mr. Long, I believe, as of the last probably 48 hours, we have gotten a check from the state from funds specifically appropriated for school safety. And very specifically, the purpose of this was for SRO to bring really the rest of the state up to where Sumner County already is and have an SRO in each public school. So this is additional money which the state is providing us. There is, and I know there's going to be a lot of discussion on this, there is some debate as to how recurring this is. If you look, I've spoken with Representative Lambert on this, and he has noted that the funding is listed under the 24-25 appropriations under recurring. However, the appropriation itself is a single year appropriation, so it's always subject to year-over-year appropriation. So there's a bit of a yes, it is. So I think there's been some discussion out online. Is this recurring? Is it not? In some way, both are true. It is a recurring line item, but is subject to a yearly appropriation. And it is not mandated, to my knowledge, as well. That's my best understanding of the truth of where this is. So that's my understanding in as simple terms as I can for the funding itself. I'm going to let everybody else go. I have some thoughts on. Personally, I think it is highly unlikely that these funds the state will remove these funds for many years to come, even though it is subject to a yearly approval. I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely for these funds to go away. And I can give my reasons for that, but I want to get everybody in queue here. So there are three specific asks which we can consider in turn. The first is for additional SROs who would staff as primary in the high schools, and then would also serve as floaters for when personnel have to be sick. Make sure that there's always somebody on duty at every school. The next one is for, I think, 5 or 6 additional patrol officers, and the last is for a one-time pay supplement for the entire department. So those are the 3 different things. And I know I've just spoken here. I would entertain a motion of any type for discussion We have a motion for discussion, and we have a second from Ms. Miller. Okay, who would like to get into queue? Mr.
I want to address the additional SROs because this is something that I've personally been pushing for, and taking a lot of calls throughout my district and a lot of discussions with residents on their concerns of safety. When the Bearcat came up a few months ago, I looked over at another commissioner and I said, you got one SRO in a high school. A lot can go wrong. I personally walked the beach in high school with my son when he was registering, and I tried to take in my mind, if I was an SRO and I'm at this end of the building, and God forbid there's an incident on the other end, how long would it take him or her to get across? So all these things in my mind, I think we do need additional security. We need the additional SRO to back each other up. A lot of emotions are put in this with parents with the Covenant School shooting. We got to do this. This is not something we can just say, well, let's think about it, and then we'll come back next month and let's think about it again. This is something that has to be done. Absolutely, we have to figure out to get this fully staffed with 2 per school. I talked to Sheriff Weatherford today and got a lot of insight from him because I want to make sure that what I was feeling and my thoughts were in line to what their beliefs were on this.
And just to be clear, it's 2 per high school.
2 per high school,
not
right.
2 per school.
No, yeah.
Just to be clear.
Correct, yeah.
That's the request.
2 per high school, yeah.
Mr. Hyde was in, and then you, Mr. Brown.
I have also had the opportunity to speak with the sheriff. I knew this was coming up, and I wanted to do my homework. And I think if most people know that I'm very conservative, but on the safety issue and on treating public safety fairly, I'm not a part of this committee. I'm an ex officio of this committee, but I will be voting for this if it makes it to the floor to vote. I think we ought to seriously consider this, and I agree with my friend on the end of the table down here. This is it's almost come to a crisis point salary-wise and staffing for SROs. So I will be voting for this.
Mr. Brown, and then Mr. Mansfield.
The thing that I'm concerned about, I mean, I want the security and all that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that these prices, do they include the patrol car that's going to go along with it, the training and all that? It's just salary.
It's just salary.
And see, I just wonder if we should look at this and understand what we need to do and making sure all those components are in place rather than just throwing out 13 SROs, and make sure that they have all their training, their uniform, all that kind of stuff.
Mr. Mansfield?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you help me understand where this is on the agenda,
That is,
the endowment grant contract? Like, what agenda item is this on the agenda?
it's the same. This, if you look, it's the 1.7 plus the 1.828. We're coming back to the 3.6. They received $3.6 million for SRO officers.
So-
That's that contract right there.
So items 1, 2, and 3. When I'm looking at page 167, this is only dealing with 19 employees. Is that what you're, I mean, I'm just trying to, I can't quite decipher page 167.
Right, there's 13.
13 SROs.
First one's 13 SROs on the first call.
6 patrol, and then the rest is, so if you think of it, item 1, put a item number 1 is above the SROs. Item number 2 is above the patrol. And then item number 3 is the salary supplement.
Okay, so that's page, okay, so those are
Yeah.
the.
So at the current SRO line, you know, when you include everything, it's $4.05 million. Is that just for the current 48 SROs, or is this including the new 13 SROs and the six patrol officers? So that's the 1.7 on top of that. And what is the top right column for the $1.8 million? What am I looking at?
That is the 3.6 less the 1.7.
Gotcha.
That's what
That's
how it
they
works
look
out.
So I get, okay, thank you, that helps clarify, because my comments or suggestion is that, you know, I looked at, I spoke with Leader Lambert several times about this as well. I had questions because I'd never seen anything in writing saying, hey, this is recurring. And it sort of says it, but it doesn't, because the grant contract says it doesn't. You know, it's just one time. And under Leader Lambert did say that was kind of a default contract language from the state on this. But he did say it's supposed to be a recurring $140 million for the entire state. Again, I don't think the state would pull that funding. They could. There's nothing guaranteed. Obviously, I think it'd be very problematic if they did pull the funding.
Right.
So it's like the probability of that happening is, I think, is very low. I'm not going to say there's nothing a safe bet, but I just wanted to make it sure and known that if the state does pull the funding, and if we want to take, say, you know, my thoughts, obviously, is that's why I wanted to clarify what's being suggested here is if we're taking that $3.6 million, shifting that over to paying for a portion of the SROs that are existing, because it doesn't cover it all. The $75,000 doesn't include the total benefits and salary package, because there's a lot, when you include the total benefits and salary, there's a lot of 80, 90, and even some $100,000 total for SROs, for example, where the $75,000 is not covering that per individual, but it's, you know, it's getting close. So obviously, but it gives us, that's $3.6 million, which frees up a lot of money. Just understanding that, I wanted to state it for the record, if we want to take that $3.6 million, shift it over for SROs, and that frees up, you know, $3.6 million in the general fund, but then reallocating, obviously, we got to use part of that to cover the shortfall. Then you're talking about using that, obviously, for new positions, the shortfalls with that as well. You're looking at equipment costs, equipment needs, everything else, and plus, which I'm all for using whatever's left over for raises in perpetuity, since I'm
gonna get them queued.
believing this
Yeah.
funding is in perpetuity. But I mean, there's things we can do, but just knowing that if the state doesn't fund this, we will have to raise property taxes to cover the shortfall. So that is just that just is the thing to do. You know, I was a little. You know, I'm thankful this came. Too bad this didn't come before a budget cycle. Right. You know, because this is a new ask. I mean, typically, I've only been here 5 years, but you know, we've never approved anything in the middle of a budget cycle for new ask. And so I guess I question, like, the new ask for this, if it wasn't asked for in June, why is it being asked for now for these new positions? As far as, at least I don't remember, there were some positions that were asked for, I think, of patrol that we didn't fully fund on those, and grant, we did like half, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, what are our options here?
Yeah,
And
let me get
discuss-
my own cue.
Okay.
And I'm gonna answer some of these, because I've had to put a lot of thought into this, and then I might make sense to go ahead and suspend rules too, because I want to let everybody get in queue, and then maybe allow Sheriff Weatherford or Chief Deputy Craddock speak to some of this, but, and what I'd like to do is break these up individually after they speak and consider them separately. But
1, 2, and 3?
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Consider them each of their own accord, so.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Interrupt you. Is there anything we're doing as far as just, that's why I'm asking, like, I feel like this needs to be approved standalone. Just approves the funding to apply for the grant, because this is an application for a grant process, is it not? This is not new funding for the
Yes,
people.
but we-
This is not even a new question.
But Mr. Long, we already have these funds, right? I mean,
We've already received the direct deposit.
So this is just us, is it, do we need to formally approve these
That's,
funds?
Mr. Long, do we need to? I think we're good.
We've received them already, you need to determine what you're gonna do.
That's it. So I don't think we need to do that.
Okay.
No, I get it, and it's a good question, but I don't think we need to do
When you
that.
determine what you're gonna do with them, we need to budget the revenue.
So, let me get, I'm back in my own queue here. So, on the, and this is my opinion, on the SROs, it seems reasonable, we can argue about the number, but it seems reasonable to ask, like, there's no redundancy right now, right? So if somebody's out sick, you're gonna have a school without an SRO, and these people are human. So it seems reasonable to have some level of redundancy, even if they weren't to be at each and every high school. So that seems to me to be a very, very reasonable ask, and one that, you know, I would absolutely support. I don't need any more justification for it. I would have, and Sheriff Weatherford and I spoke about this, there was a separate thing I think I thought was more cost effective, but at the end of the day, not here to dictate what the Sheriff's Office does. This ask is, in my view, reasonable, very reasonable, and I think it would be helpful. I'm gonna go down to 3 on the pay supplement. You know, I've paid attention here, and I've obviously paid attention to everybody's comments. On the problem, my issue with the pay supplement as it is proposed here is that it's just like this Band-Aid one-time patch. This is what I would rather do, is to take this back and consider one of the big complaints, and I've heard this complaint from lots of county staff, is about step increases, and I know they're good reasons not to do steps, but there's this intermediary capability, this intermediary path that the military does that others do, which I think we can consider. And that way we're not just slapping on a one-time payment, but instead thoughtfully build out retention bonuses that scale up over time, so that people have an understandable and predictable set of retention bonuses that would layer on top of COLA. So that's what I would like to think on that one. And then the additional, this is again my opinion, the additional officers, you know, what makes this special, and Mr. Mansfield, I think you're right, that you typically, you know, you do a budget and it's set, and it is what it is, and you don't add new positions. What makes the SROs different is that this is new funding, which we knew was coming, but we didn't have it at the time of budget. So that is a little bit different. However, additional non-SRO officers is, in my view, a little bit tougher to sell. So I guess if I'm like laying this out, in my view, item 1 is like a clear yes. Item 3 is a let's figure this out. And item 2 is we're gonna have to wait until the next budget cycle. That's my opinion, but I'm just one vote here. So do we have any other, because I would like to have suspend the rules, to vote to suspend the rules to let reps from the Sheriff's Department speak. Mr. Brown?
I just have a question for Law Director. Can we break these 3 up?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't necessarily see a problem with it, but we're dealing with one grant. Is
3.6 to be used toward existing too, so I mean, I don't know.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mansfield?
Well, I was just saying, what we're doing is applying the 3.6, shifting it totally into the SRO line, and then we have to shift that money back out, basically, and figure out what we
Yeah.
want to do with that.
That's right.
That's what's
The
happening.
1.8.
No, the 3.6.
All of it. It all goes in and all.
Correct,
That's right.
because we are gaining 3.6 and we have 3.6
That's right.
extra. And so, but we're being told that this is recurring,
Right.
even though it's only year to year. Again, it would look, the probability of them pulling this funding back is, I would say, extremely low. I mean, so it would be stupid. So I think, to me, it's safe. I feel safe doing this. I don't, but again, it's a tax increase if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm just making that known. Yeah, it's backing that money out and then taking that money to be able to reallocate it, which is what the ask is here for the salary increases. Of course, they're asking for new, out of that money that we're using out of the tax rate right now, that's where the new patrolman request comes from. That's where the new SROs is coming from technically, because 3.6 is only funding, and it's not even fully funding. We have a couple $100,000 missing in the funding for the 48 current SROs. So the 3.6 that we're getting doesn't cover even what we have.
Mr. Long?
It's $75,000 times 48.
That's right.
For
That's
48
right.
SR, 75,000.
It's just, that's
And it
it.
says, if you read the grant document, it says they can't be more than one in the school. They have several requirements.
Right.
Subject to appropriations. So really, it's a 75, up to 75 per for the existing.
Per school. Mr. Brown? And then Ms. Boyd.
Are we going, I mean, once we approve this, are we going to be asked for the vehicles for these SROs?
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will.
Well, that brings me
Where's
to
that money go?
Well, Ms. Boyd, I mean, yeah.
There's a lot of numbers on the table, and a lot of numbers that are not on the table. It's the numbers that are not on the table that Bob's talking about that I'd like to see on the table before we move forward. I see the need for the SROs, but I also see the need to account for the fully loaded, the training, the uniforms, the squad cars, and all that. And we don't see how much that is. And I agree with Jeremy. It will be a tax increase if the state pulls back, and we're all heading into a recession. And we could give this money later. We can give it in pieces. We can give 4 this quarter. We could give 4 next quarter if the recession doesn't hit us. But I'd like to see the full number so we'll know what we're up against if the state doesn't.
I would be interested in considering suspending the rules to let either Sheriff or Chief Deputy Craddock.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Mr. Craddock, the Sheriff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the first question is maybe some of those around, like the additional capabilities that'll be needed for these officers should you hire them.
So, the answer on cars, eventually, yes, we are gonna have to replace cars, but we have to do that every year. You guys just carried over money for I think we can get 10 out of that this year. I don't expect to come back to you this budget year and say, we need X number of cars because you approved 13 SROs. Sheriff and I looked at our fleet. We may have to patch a few cars and put them on the road a little while longer than we have in the past, but we think we can make it without asking for more cars this year.
Any other questions on that? Well, I have a question for you, but it's something simple.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So will you be hiring new SRO officers, or will you be taking some, like, employees from somewhere else and putting them there, or how will that work? Maybe completely.
My goal is always to promote from within. We've got people here who put their foot in the door just like I did back when I was 19 years old in jail. So my goal is to always promote
So
from
if you
within.
promote from within and you move them to SROs, you'll have to hire someone to.
That's
take
exactly
their
right.
place.
Now we're back to the recruiting and retention problem that we're facing in the corrections division, which is the step 3 of the plan to increase the salaries.
Any other questions there? I've got, go ahead. I'll get y'all into it.
Maybe I missed this, but the fact that we're gonna put 2 SROs in every high school, is that so that if somebody does call in sick, we've got backup? Or is?
No. So NASRO best practices is 1 SRO for 1,000 students. Not every high school here, but I'd say 50% of our high schools have 1,000 students, and we're gonna get there within the next few years, right? So now's the time to go ahead and do that. We built into that number 5 floaters for the guy who calls out sick, for the guy who has an emergency at home and has to leave half a day. That way, there's never a time, theoretically, that a school is without an armed deputy.
Okay, 5 floating SROs.
Yeah, and I didn't make that, I didn't separate those out because I said we can, but.
Just today, we had someone that had to leave for
Yeah.
an emergency at their house. You know, they're people, they're not machines.
And those 5 are built into the 13?
They're built into that 13.
Miss Boyd?
So as it is today and last year, was there any time when we had a vacancy due to sickness that, can we not send over a deputy to fill in?
We don't have the staffing on the road, right? Now we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. Yes, earlier this year, I did make Warren's deputies come from their division and go cover a school, right? But now we're neglecting statutory duties of the sheriff. We're required to serve process, right? We're not required by statute to have somebody in the schools. But obviously, our community practices or our community concerns are school security,
So I'm gonna get in queue, and then you, and then you, and then Mr. Teacher behind you. Okay, so here's my question. So, and this is, so speaking, we talked about the SROs, I know we're talking about this all in one thing. When it comes to the pay, so how much do you guys return each year back to the?
It's been $17 million over the past 13 years.
So $1.5 million, like, so if we're having such a problem with that, like, where is the, I mean, what's being done with that amount of?
Well, I'd like to recall you right back to the budget cycle this year when we came in and we asked for 6%, we're immediately
That's
cut
fair.
to 2 and 3.
That's fair. I mean, it's fair.
And
But
I would
go
not to
ahead.
cut you off, Mr.
No, go ahead.
I would like to point out that we're living in a new world today, right? This Robertson County raise.
I know,
It wasn't on the table
none of
in
us saw
March
this
when I had
coming.
to submit my budget, but what was on the table was the THP raise. And I brought that up, the Homeland Security program that's going. I brought that up. I tried to give you guys all the information I
No,
could
you
possibly
did.
give you to let you know that we were.
How many people have quit so far?
I have to pull out my notes, several.
We've had people.
I've heard up to 9 are in the interview process for THP right now. I know that Robertson County has offered a position to one of our patrol deputies. I know people have interviews at Robertson County for corrections positions.
Okay. Mr. Mansfield, Minister Klein.
I just want to, everybody talks about Robertson County, but nobody's talking the fact that they raise property taxes to do this, so let's be very honest here, transparent. And just, in all fairness, I mean, that's why, but here, there, or the other, I'm just curious, how many, I believe you guys have around 343 total employees of the Sheriff's Department, is that accurate? How many of those are post-certified? What'd you say?
I would say 47%. 127 is the number that comes to my mind. Don't quote me on that.
So
I had a lot on my brain today.
So I assume that the SROs
Are post-certified.
as well as your patrolmen, are the jailers post-certified?
No, they are TCI certified, Tennessee Corrections Institute. So
Okay.
corrections officers have a different certification. than
Certification. So if you were to take like a jail corrections officer and they'd want to go to the patrolman, they would have to go to the post or?
Yes, they would have to go through 12.
Okay, so I'm just curious is this correct, like of the $1.8 million ask, a raise for 343 employees, or do you?
Yes, that's exactly how I got to this number here. I just put it in Excel and did the formula, divided 1.828, and I think I did it by 360 because that number is plus these.
Okay, you're including that.
I included everybody to get the base salary to
So
competitive.
you're including clerical,
Yes.
mechanical, janitorial, everybody getting that equal salary increase?
Yes, sir. I think the corrections and deputy line has gotten the most publicity, but not to be underscored by the fabulous work that our clerical staff does, our maintenance staff does, and everyone in the sheriff's office is kind of on the same line.
Mr. Klein, go ahead.
Here, you, by population, how many total employees are you supposed to have right now? Can you take?
343.
That's what you're supposed to have?
That's what's in our letter of agreement with the county mayor.
Okay, and what do we have right now?
We are down pretty significantly. I think today's number in the jail is 37 in corrections, and that's going to increase because we did promote somebody to clerical effective late October, and then we are down 7 on the patrol side.
What's your total number?
Whatever those two add up to.
So
37 and 1?
7.
44. 44 down.
So, go ahead.
So we're at 299.
that was gonna be my question.
Yes.
So 343, is that just available positions? That's not employees, that's available open positions.
How much, so I think the question is, how many positions, so you have 347? 343, how many are filled? I mean, how many total staff do you have?
What we have.
Like, you got spaces over here, how many faces?
37 correction vacancies and 7 deputy vacancies.
So it's, so $299.
$299,
So,
okay.
okay.
So when, that money that those 44 are not getting, that just stays in your budget?
It typically comes back to the county at the end of that FY.
Okay, at the end of the fiscal year, okay.
Yeah, if I try to move that money around and just give random people raises, he'd all fussing.
So you're at 87, 88% capacity.
I would
roughly.
agree with that number.
And you said you've got about 9 that are on the fence.
That's 9 people who are openly talking about it, right? That's not, if I was going to apply to a competing agency, I wouldn't tell anybody,
Yeah, I get it.
right? So,
Ms. Teacher, I know you had asked me speaking to Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I mean, I've spoken to several SROs. They're one of the most vital members of the school, in their sheriff's department. So that feels very obvious to me that, that we want to support that possibility if it's possible. But I was curious about, is there a way, because I'm just talking, I don't know if it's possible. Is there a way, and this doesn't solve the financial increase, like it doesn't even solve salary increase, but it would possibly add more. Could you, if you promoted from within the SROs, which makes sense, totally makes sense, is there a way to use this money like legally? I love that I'm asking if it's legal, but to an officer. But is there a way to use that money still while we're promoting within and hire new officers with that money? You understand where I'm going with that?
I don't understand.
Okay, so like,
That's what he does anyway.
so, yeah.
He already does that.
No, like, okay, so it's SRO money. Can you get it and give that to the officers you're promoting within? Take the money that you got from those officers and give that to new hires that come in and add more butts and seats, as we say it. Does that make sense?
I think we have a proposal on the table and to do, I mean, it's, in a way, that proposal is similar, right? Because they're talking about taking some of this $3.6 million to be $5,000 across the board raises or thereabouts.
I'm just, in a way.
So it's a similar kind of thing. So anyway, what are you?
Just to finish up, I think it would maybe tie up the number 1 and number 2. If you're promoting within, if there's a way to use the money for that promotion to bring them into SROs, but hire new ones with the salary they have, that just doesn't solve the raise. But you understand me? That seems like a.
I'm not totally following, if I'm being honest. I'm not. I mean, there's a pot.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So let's. And I'm not trying to cut you off. I mean, we just
That's
trying
all I'm
to.
asking.
They have a fixed salary scale there, so there's not
Yeah,
a whole
that's
lot
right.
of attrition among when people quit. In other words, there's not a huge disparity in what each
I'll get you there.
officer makes. There's not a lot of.
There's just not a way to take the SRO money and add people to the patrol.
That's what they're talking about doing. They're taking some of that money and they're asking for new patrol officers. That's what we're talking about. They're saying 13 additional SROs, 6 additional patrol officers, and the rest being spread out amongst the personnel for staff raises. So it's, what you're talking about is what they're trying to do.
I just misunderstood, because I was thinking, that's not
Okay,
for me. but-
Miss Boyd?
So I'm listening, and the amount of 44 that you're down, the employees, that seems to be our major problem. If we take and we pull 13 more SROs, plus another 6 patrol, that's gonna increase your deficit a lot. It seems to me like the problem we need to address first is the salaries.
I don't disagree.
And then later, the money's not going anywhere. It's sitting here. If we address the salary issue, go and look closely and making sure everybody's paid before we go depleting your force even more, the money's not going anywhere. We can come back and circle in and see how much is left after we've taken care of our base.
I'm gonna get my own cue. Go ahead, did you want to respond to that?
If we want to take this entire 3.6 and spread it out amongst all of our current employees, I'm 100% for it.
So you'd rather do that than add more SROs?
I'm not going to say that I would rather do that because I think the fight next budget year, and this is an actual need.
Because, I mean, this amount of money was for SROs.
Correct. And we're taking money out of the SRO line now.
Yeah, I mean,
So semantics. But
I mean, that looks like the problem to me.
as the chief deputy at the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, I can tell you right now that there are no greater people in this county than the men and women that come to work every day.
Mhm.
And they deserve absolutely every penny of it. So if that's your motion, I 100% support it.
My motion is to take and look at the numbers, and let's see how it comes out. But let's address that piece of the issue first.
Mr.
And-
Brown
and with-
Mr. Klein, go ahead.
With
Finish up.
Chairman Shove's idea of looking at layering in some layers and a longer plan for, you know, longevity and how we can shore all that up in a more solid base for everyone.
I just want it to be super, because, you know, well, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
How much did you say you turn in each year?
I couldn't give you, I'll be honest with you, I have not looked at the end of
thought-
the budget.
That was
It
like
probably
No,
came
you
to
said-
like $1 million.
Yeah, it's
1.3,
roughly-
1.3, 1.4.
A lot of that's salaries.
Well,
A lot of that's because we have.
Because you have
Well,
shortages, because you have
It's
shortages.
just,
Well-
just putting it back in to get it back out.
yeah, well,
It's
that's what I'm
it's
saying.
sick as
So-
Why that apply
It was all spent, you have a
also?
budget.
So is their salaries?
I don't understand that question.
Well, you said you turn it in to the
Right.
general fund.
It goes back to the county.
Yeah, why don't you just allocate that toward the salaries? too?
They can't do that, they can't do that.
If you did, it'd cause a budget deficit anyway,
Yeah.
because your revenues and expenditures
can't do
have
that.
balanced
So-
for 30 years.
So, Mr. Klein, then Mr. Mansfield, then I'm gonna get my own cue again.
Okay, I have to ask this question because I wasn't around here at the time. I mean, I lived here, but I was not following. Last year, the sheriffs received a 15% increase.
Couple years back.
Was it a couple of years back? And then this year, we gave 2% more to those and then 3% to, well, but everybody in the sheriff's
Well, it
department.
came in that they were given a 15% mid-year. This year, they were given half of whatever the ARPA was locally, and took it, way to kind of decrease the ARPA.
Cost of county.
And then they were given a 2% raise. And then the new employees that didn't receive ARPA got a 3% raise like the rest of the employees.
Okay, so the people who had been here got a total of 17%.
Well, they got more than that, they got a raise the year before, so over the 2 years.
Okay, and were we that deficient in pay that, I mean, because those are huge raises. I've never gotten a 7.5% in my life in 1 year.
If you look on the back of the budget, it actually has them all listed.
Is what?
If you look in the back of your budget, it'll have all the salaries listed by position.
Right.
And if you look at the sheriff, you can go down through there, the only thing you have to do, there's a ARPA line, you have to add that to their salary again, or show every position salary to kind of compare to the other counties we're talking about, other issues.
Okay, I just,
Mr. Chairman, go ahead. Well, I'll say something, but if I could ask you to address what we did in the budget cycle, why we had to do what we do.
Yeah, sure.
ARPA, because of what the previous commission did. That's the whole reason with what I said. They did what we weren't supposed to do according to comptroller.
Yep.
It's left us in a lurch. And so that's part of it's cleaning up a mess that we shouldn't be in.
Yep.
But I do want to address, personally, I'm for taking all the money and increasing all the salaries without new positions. That's because, and here's why. You know, Governor Bill Lee in 2018, one of the things he ran on, he is reversed his position on. That's what he got elected in 2018, was to allow educators to be a part of the armed security solution in schools. That was a platform campaign promise to Governor Randall. And so when you look at allowing educators to exercise their Second Amendment right within the school environment to protect themselves, I mean, because their Second Amendment right doesn't stop just because they walked into a school building. And it's tragic that exists. But you're looking at, you know, and I'm not talking about whatever kind of training throttles, whatever they'd have to qualify to carry a gun in a school as a teacher and be on the list. I'm not talking about that at all. It's a separate discussion. Just talking about just allowing it. Part of this ask is if the governor actually followed through on his campaign, what he did, and actually tried to push for legislation, we wouldn't need to have this ask on, in my opinion, and we could take this money and fully allocate it, because you would have a lot of armed security officers, quote unquote, you know, individuals and teachers and staff, or administrators and faculty who are part of the armed security solution in a school, and I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm a huge proponent of our deputies being able to access their rifles in the school. It doesn't happen yet. I mean, and so that I've got a problem with that. And so, but as far as, I do think, I would like to see, if we're talking about, we're getting this money for the SROs, put it there, but whatever else we can to boost it as a just shift that money over for salaries. That is my preference if I get a choice to vote on that over any new positions. But it's also knowing that I would want to keep lobbying and pounding the General Assembly and the governor to make do on their campaign promises of what they said. So that
Go ahead. Oh, no,
I just adding that in as far as like these are in things that I factor in, you know, and because that's going to give, if you take these 19 positions out, that's a lot more salary increase.
I guess this is here's my point on a few of these things. So the thought I had was similar to what you had said, which was not, and it would have been more cost effective, which was not necessarily to get new full-time SROs. Instead, it was to have reserve deputies qualified among existing staff, and the deputize those, you know, one, you know, per school or something like that. And there were good reasons that we spoke about this, and there were I understand there were reasons. You know, I think those are potentially bureaucratic reasons of who owns who at what time, and that could be dealt with a good SOP. But that would be a cheaper way to do it. However, I mean, my take on this is that, like, look, I mean, I'm just going to level. The place that I want freaking law, you know, officers with protecting people is at the schools. That's where I want people. I mean, you know, if it were up to me, I mean, we talked about this, and I can be hated, and it's okay. People hate me my whole life, doesn't matter. Seriously. So, like, I would rather see. You've been operating with 48 some less people for a long time. I mean, is it possible to operate with fewer and pay people more? I mean, that's what we do in business. We operate with fewer, pay people more. I mean, is it not? I mean, we've been operating at 85, 88% capacity. I mean, is that just not on the table?
That is, I am absolutely amazed that we've sustained this long.
But I mean, and this is where I'm like, I get it, like, and this is where I'm like this guy who has to ask these questions, and it's going to make everybody mad. But like, what's the incident rate? Like, if we have 40 more people, I mean, what does that change? Could we have? I mean, we've been operating at this capacity for a long time. I mean, the world is not ending. Go ahead.
TCI showed up for their unannounced annual inspection to certify our jail, found some deficiencies, and directly attributed to, I wish I could quote it for you, deficiencies are directly related to staffing shortage.
So it sounds like, would you say the greatest deficiency is in your correctional facility for the jail? Is that versus patrolmen, or we're just talking about basically a safety issue in the jails from the reasons we heard during public comments, you know? So would you say are all those staffing deficiencies in the jail, of those 44 positions? I think it's all jail correctional. It's not patrol.
No, there's 7 on patrol.
So the majority is from the jail.
The majority is from jail.
And this is kind of my point.
It has
like,
been. I've reported this in emergency services for months.
So like I guess what I'm getting at here, and this is kind of Commissioner Boyd's thought here. Look, ultimately we want to do something. It's about, like, as opposed to just blasting out 5,000 across the board, think through like where the gap is, and if the gap is more in the corrections than it is on patrol, then maybe there's more love given to corrections than patrol on like a per capita type basis type thing. I mean, that's looking at it just from like a business point of view. Like, where are gaps? How do you best deploy resources in order to fill those gaps? And I don't know that we're going to get to it tonight. I mean, honestly, like, maybe some of this, I feel like this needs its own subcommittee or a working group or something to like hammer out some specifics. Anyway, sorry.
And that's exactly what I would like to go for. If we could see the full numbers, option A, option B, if we compare the salaries with the surrounding counties, benchmark them, what have you, how far could some money go there compared to if we put another 20 people and then you're 64 short, what that looks like, and how many people are going to leave then? If we could like line it out, cost it out,
Yeah.
the full cost, to see where we're at.
With a working group, I've got even a thought. I'm going to make a motion here in a minute. Go ahead, Mr. Mansfield, Minister.
The only other, I guess I'll qualify when I was talking about taking all that money, all raises, understand, listening to what you're saying as far as SROs in the schools, you do need, it sounds like you need at least 4 or 5 positions as floaters as, to work those schools as needed. My brain is thinking like if we don't do any of these, it sounds like it might be 4 or 5 positions needed between those, especially those 9 high schools. You're getting a pretty good rotation as far as help. I'm just verbal whiteboard exploiting here, but that would be my only change to what I said as far as like, it sounds like a true need here on new positions for schools.
So I'm gonna go back to do we have any other?
Too many schools are coming in, so you'll be
Well,
48, you'll need 2 more.
So the state will fund that, right?
We will, once those schools are open and on the BOE list.
So the state will fund those SROs.
We'll get another
So,
25.
go ahead, Mr. Klein, then I'm gonna bring us back
Two
to our
two
rules set.
questions for Mr. Long. Davis, do you have access to all of the information for, say, Robertson County that would create, so we could
We
a
could
fully
ask
loaded
them,
wage?
Right now, we could ask.
We
them
brought
for-
that tonight.
So you've got
We
all.
brought a presentation to give to you tonight.
Oh, okay.
That gives the numbers of all the counties it touches.
Well, great. Now, number 2.
We don't have the
Does that
loaded-
benefit?
I don't have the loaded cost, I don't know if they pay TCRS like we
That's-
do, or health or anything, so I don't really.
That's what we have to know.
We'd have to contact
But this
them
is,
and find out.
we went through this.
Where our capital payments for capital improvements are coming down substantially next year.
Dead.
They're dead.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why next year is gonna be a lot different.
A lot different.
A lot different.
And that's what I would
Yes.
say to the sheriffs. I mean, we're gonna do everything we can right now, but this commission has been very frugal about capital investments. We've been tightwads, frankly. And next year, the monies will be much more available when we go into budget committee meetings in May. So we can do a lot more for you. I just want the sheriffs to know, hang on with this. It's not that we don't want to give you extra money. We don't have it.
Mr. Mansfield, and then I wanna go, and then I'll get you, and then we're gonna go back to the rules, but, just go ahead.
Well, you're bringing up a good point of what we've gone through the budget cycle this year that we're having. We basically were on a trajectory of deficit spending, basically.
Yes.
And that was
Yes.
putting us on a negative budgetary path toward the tax increase. If we
Correct.
didn't do what we did this year.
Correct.
Obviously, next year, we're gonna have about $10 million going off debt service, right? So
That is correct.
that could go to the general fund. Recurring, $10 million frees up. But again, what we're dealing with is what I felt, and a lot of people have felt, is that a lot of county departments have been neglected in as far as services and material and personnel and pay over others for the past 8 or 10 years. And so what we're trying to do is bring parity as a new commission, in my opinion, to bring up those other county services that have been neglected, such as highway, such as EMS, such as the sheriff's departments. I mean, so there's a lot of things, and it's just, you brought up a good point, Chairman Shove, during the budget cycle or last year of, you can have shiny new things, you can have sustainable raises, or you can have low taxes, pick 2. And we talked about that during the budget cycle. And my constituents have told me to pick sustainable raises and low taxes. So that's why I defer to the shiny new things we have, hey, we're because, investing in personnel and people versus the one-time things that are momentary or fleeting, I guess, or, we need the capital structure, but just to reemphasize, refocus what we're trying to do here, it's not an overnight fix. Understand everybody's impatient. I mean,
that would be too.
I mean, I've lost $10,000 of personal income for the past several years since Biden inflation took place, and contemplating getting a 3rd job myself just because I've had to eat through my savings personally for my family and my needs. So I get it, and my constituents get it as well. But the good thing here is a unique opportunity that we weren't expecting from the state, which is why this, again, to me, it's worth taking this risk of a tax increase in the future. I mean, I know you're hearing Jeremy Mansell say that, but I mean,
it'd be political suicide for the state to pull $140 million
That's
from
right.
95 counties.
That's
And I don't
right.
see that happening. I'm just,
Mr. Craddock, because you had a couple things you wanted to say.
Two things. One thing, if that's the plan, and we're gonna form some committee to attack it and make sure that we're applying these dollars appropriately where they need to go, I support, but I do wanna encourage efficiency, right? These guys have seen us need a jail roof since last August. These guys have seen how slow the wheels of government turn. So, I would just like, if that's gonna be the plan, put the plan out, that way we can start doing something to execute it. These guys have held with us and been with us for several years, and it's time, in my opinion, especially with this money that's not gonna cost the property taxpayer in Sumner County this year anything, it's time to do something.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Craddock?
Could you ask him to supply the data you have to my office? Sure. And maybe have Chief Craddock come over and work with us on it.
We'll do that, and I've got a couple amendments here. We're gonna go move back to the rules, and I'm gonna go, I don't like to do this. Go ahead.
David, when's the staffing requirement? The school staffing requirement, is it gonna get us in any hiccup on the,
School staffing.
as far as SROs, the ones we've gotta add?
We've already got 48.
Yeah,
So
They're
we're
averaging more
in
than 75.
compliance.
We're ahead.
I just wanna make
We're
sure
already
we
spending
weren't
more
tripping
than-
up over
We're
our
ahead.
own grant. Okay.
We're spending a little
So
more
I'm gonna, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna make a motion, I'm gonna make two motions back to back. So here's my first one. I would like to make an emotion immediately to hire the 5 floaters for SROs. To go ahead and.
Second.
Okay.
I'd like to see the numbers.
Well, we can, I mean,
That's
an immediate thing. I mean, we can get, I mean,
We
we're
need to do
talking 5
something
people.
with that.
Well, we're voting, that's my motion, the 5 floaters.
The cost fully loaded of a new SRO with single health is $69,052.
And we're getting 75.
So it would be 6952 times, did you say 5?
5.
Whatever that's,
The 5
it's
floaters.
inappropriate that much.
5
Bring
floaters.
45.
Fully loaded SRO.
That's at the current
But that's the
salary.
only way you get single health
So-
insurance.
The next thing I would, is, well, let's get this. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Does this need to have the waiver
Second.
for the second
You need to
reading?
waive the second reading.
All right, well, I'm gonna do this again. I'd like to
Yeah.
make that motion to waive the second reading if it's unanimous.
Second.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's not first. What was that number? The
5.
6905.
69.
052 times
Okay, that's
5
all.
is 345,260.
Were you a yes?
Yeah.
but the proposal is for adding 5,000 to it, so you're looking at instead of 70, it'd be 74, so 1,000.
Were you
But you're
a,
gonna start with the-
were you a yes,
Correct.
Ms. Miller?
I'm a yes.
Okay, so we're
I
unanimous
just
on
wanted
that one.
clarification.
All good. We have a unanimous on that one. So the next thing I'd like to do is, and I'll go ahead and take a vote on this. I'd like to appoint Ms. Terry Boyd. And I want to do this to where we can do this expeditiously and we don't have to call a bunch of meetings. So I'd like to just appoint one individual to work through these numbers with the law director and the sheriff's officer, Chief Deputy Craddock.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
It's gonna be Ms.
Is
Boyd.
that okay
Oh,
with Terry?
sorry, no, sorry. That's a little bust there.
Hey, is that okay with Terry?
It's, so I'd like to appoint Ms. Boyd, Mr.
Line.
Line, and Chief Deputy Craddock, or I can't appoint you, but ask you that you join this committee. And then you guys hammer out the details. We got the 5 SROs, that one's good. Hammer out the details on the pay supplement and additional officers, if any. And then it's not subject to open meetings. You guys, if there's just one of y'all, you could start work tomorrow. Is that expeditious enough?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right.
I'll email him tonight.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
quick question on that, because I had a few deputies reach out to me, and we went over this in budget about trying to set a benchmark. If you have, and I hate to single out Mr. Sittler, but this was the problem I had. If you're here less than a year, you're getting the same
that's
COLA
what they're gonna
increase
talk
as someone
about.
that's here 20 years. So all I ask is if you could maybe, I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe set a benchmark.
I trust
with,
Ms. Boyd
Yep.
to be extremely thorough.
Oh, I do too, I do too, I just want to.
I trust Miss,
Glad that
between
was
Miss,
thorough.
between Miss Boyd and Mr. Long, I think they will be extremely thorough and come up with something that is fair and expeditious. Okay.
I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so I think we've got that one.
You got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Craddock. You can go. Yeah, you guys go ahead. Thank y'all. All right, transfer between major categories.
Where are we at now?
3, Health Department, $56,000 approved by the state.
That is where he's asking to keep the state money to use and transfer for something else on page 168. And he, Mr. Howell, is here if you have any questions.
I don't. Is there a motion on this?
It's mostly remodeling of Gallatin's health department.
My understanding is we want to keep it locally.
Do we have a motion? I know we're.
I make a motion.
We have a motion to discuss. We have a motion to discuss. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
He's wanting to transfer to his regular budget, so you want a second, you don't have to go to county commission, so you want a second.
Well, the motion is just to discuss at this point.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Questions?
I haven't seen any of the proposals. I'm reading, remodelers, station lobby, seating, painting, toilet rooms, exterior security camera system. I mean, we could ask him to provide the proposals, but where does this sit with the bidding process?
We've done nothing on it yet. Right now, this is money that generally goes to the state. They pay 50, whatever that amount, 56,480 to the state to be used back in Sumner County at some point in the future. Hal's asking to keep it here to do these particular projects. If it's running through the county and it's biddable, we will bid it. My understanding is he's wanting to keep it locally, so if it goes back $10,000, we will have to.
Okay, that's news. I didn't know how that worked.
It's a $10,000 cutoff.
Okay.
And I don't think Hal's bidding is
Could we suspend the rules? Make a motion to suspend?
Yeah, go ahead and make a motion.
Make a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
This is money that it's TCA, it's on the books, that goes in. I don't know how they come up with that amount. It's never changed since 2010, but it's each county, each city, Portland, Gallatin, Hendersonville, and the county. There's an appropriation, we call it, to Nashville, the Department of Health.
And it's that amount, that
amount.
56,480?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
You appropriate it every year.
Yeah, and I don't know where that originally came from. It was that way when I got on board in 2010, so, instead of it going to Nashville, I said, we can spend it, put it to good use and improving our facilities here.
So if you don't use it, it goes to.
Yeah, I don't request it. And over the years, there's been bits and pieces where we requested for, maybe a cold pull table, or a refrigerator, or freezer, or different things. The state doesn't pay for it. We could request bits and pieces. I just said this year, let's just keep the whole thing to ourselves, because I can put it to good use. Wilson County did got approval from the state to put external cameras for safety. We're going to look at the same thing.
And I can't remember, but you're mostly funded by the state.
85%.
85%. So doing these improvements, he wouldn't have to run through the county bidding process?
Yes, he would.
He would?
He would on these are going to be local appropriations. Of course, he's asking to transfer this from the donation line, the 56,480 at the state, over into his health department to do this particular item. He will have to bid and run through their process.
Okay.
So this money that's sent to the state, in time, can request it back for projects. So this money stays down there and you can request it back later anyway.
Yeah, that goes into an account statewide and it builds up over time. And we have a roof blow off, or so that wouldn't be capital, that could come back to the state to repair, or we needed a new wing or something, we can replace that thing.
Well, we're just not giving it to the state, we're putting it down there.
Yeah.
Don't have to farm it like that.
So
Keep it here.
So, okay.
This time we want to keep it here to go do these projects.
You want me to ask?
If I can do that every year, I'll do it. If they give it to me, we'll keep it here, spend it right.
Terry?
I just had a quick question. Do you rotate the funds around? Like, I noticed that a lot of these are Gallatin. Do some years Hendersonville? Several of us have been to Hendersonville.
Yeah.
And we see some needs there also. So I was just wondering, will Hendersonville get part of this money next time,
We're
since this is a
hoping
lot of?
that with the facility in Hendersonville, we'll take care of that, all those issues with the funding. That rebuild, repair funding.
I think, if I may interject, I think we're supposed to take, instead of taking that money to build a new facility up in Commissioner Miller's district, we were gonna take that money and put it into the existing.
Yeah, we're gonna rebuild right where we're in Hendersonville, rebuild right there.
So it's gonna stay there.
Remodel right there.
Oh, remodel, not
Yeah,
rebuild.
Right on that, no property, we've got the property, we're just gonna just rebuild right there where we're at.
So like rebuild, like tear it down and rebuild, or
I think
rebuild
we're
like
gonna
new
look to see
paint?
what the requirements and what zoning in Hendersonville will allow us to do and what architects are gonna say. It was built in 1978, I have absolutely nowhere in my electrical panel add anything.
Yeah.
All that's gonna come out, that's a big expense right there, especially with us being so electronic with scanners and printers and all. Do we tear out the electrical panel and put new, or is it cheaper to go down to the ground and come up? We're gonna have to look at all that and see.
If I may, I'm sure there's a cost somewhere, I just don't know what it is. How much do we have for that remodel rebuild project?
1.9
million from the state.
And what's our
It's from
time
the
frame?
state. It's a state grant.
What's our time frame? We're gonna get that started
It's
soon, in
ARPA.
2 years?
It's ARPA money,
So we
it's
gotta get it
26.
spent by 26.
26.
Is that spent and built?
It has to be.
It's finished.
It
Finished
has
by
to be
26.
totally finished. It has to be
It has to be
appropriated,
committed by
allocated,
2024
committed.
December. It has to be
2024.
totally done by December 2026.
Correct. That's the right answer.
But it has to be committed.
I was stumbling over
So
my
we're
words.
not putting up security cameras in
We're
here.
really in a rush on all of
Yeah.
it.
So
we
do we have-
Tear
Thank you.
them down, you know?
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. We're getting back under our normal rule set. Any motions on motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do you want to waive the second reading? Or?
All right.
I'll waive the second reading.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously with the second reading waived. All right, next item is county employee raise and salary adjustment, 169 and 191.
This is to do with the direct grant access, which is the grant you get from the state.
Hold on.
It's on page 169, 170, and 171.
What agenda item were you?
It's the one right below that.
It's other items, item
C1.
C1. New C1.
And basically, they want the county to make a choice in which way they do it, and there's 3 different options.
Can we defer this?
How, you might want to ask how pressing it is.
How pressing is this?
We got till, budget is 2024, so.
Yeah, I mean, we were so focused on that. We didn't.
Motion to defer.
Motion defer, second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll be happy to meet with some.
Yeah,
educating,
yeah.
bring in the background on all
We
that.
had obviously a big thing to consider this rest of this meeting. We'll put it into old business and we'll,
We discuss that on the next item.
I think this is clear. Well, we'll go ahead. I'll entertain a motion to discuss.
So moved to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Long, please.
On the water lines,
Yes.
after the emails we sent and everything came to committee, we actually, working with the mayor's office, actually got everything worked out and determined that the first resolution, we could look at enough information to see that it did not apply. And actually, the second one, I think there's enough evidence there to point toward that the intent was to allow the county staff and the water districts to work on the plan. So we went ahead and approved the 2 POs that were in question at this point. So unless there's any other questions.
Mr. Mayor, any issues with that? We're good? Okay.
This was the PO for the
So I-
6.7. What was the PO?
I forget, they're 1 point something. They were two of the.
Does this need any?
No,
It
action.
needs no motion, so I would just like to strike this. I'm gonna strike all of item 2. I think we can strike all of it.
All of it?
Mr.
All of
Chairman,
it. Yes, sir.
I do want to add, just one thing is a thank you to our legal department who turned that contract over. We kind of got put in a bind on that, and we had a good conversation with them on timeframes for review. And I think going forward, we've got a good plan on the timeframe required to review contracts and getting it to them in time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, item D, what's that?
So moved.
Oh, well, oh, shoot, that's good. Cotton Town donations.
Oh, yeah.
Item I, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. Brown. So
move for discussion.
move for discussion. We have a motion and a second. Okay. Mr. Mayor, I think this one was yours. Cotton Town donations.
Pardon me?
Cotton Town donations.
Oh, yes. For those that were in the, I guess, general lots, we got a bid for the Draper House to shore up the roof and install 3 doors from Mr. Goodroof. And they also had a check that we have turned over to finance. The total amount was $3,515. I would like to see it passed and waive second reading if possible, so we can go ahead
I'll
and get the work
move
done.
to waive second reading.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, done. Okey dokey. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for correcting me there.
So moved.
What's that?
Tax
Tax
refund,
refund.
so
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One left.
Adjournment, so moved.
Second? All in favor? Done. Thanks.
We can discuss that.
You know that.